So in the earlier 9 steps, we have actually fragmented the whole problem, the whole gaming project into 9 small steps. And now in step 10, the final step, we have to combine the code blocks to actually run the game. So just as a quick flashback, in step 1, we have printed a board and fixed the coordinates to make a representation of the board. And we have also made a test board. And in step 2, we have assigned markers X and O to the players. And in step 3, we have tested whether we can actually put the marker on the board. And we have tested with a random variable or a symbol. And we have written the game conditions in step 4. And at step 5, we have decided who goes first by using a random module. And at step 6, we have checked whether the game is still on by checking whether there is space on the board. At step 7, we have checked whether the game is ended by seeing whether the board is full. And at step 8, we have checked against the player's input, and we have checked whether that is possible to put the player's input in the intended coordinate. At step 9, we have given an option to the player after the game is ended to see whether they want to play or not. So at step 10, we'll start with a greeting like a tic-tac-toe game. And we'll start by resetting the board, and we will try to distinguish between the inputs of the players so that basically we'll write 2 blocks of code, 2 main blocks of code from player 1 and player 2. So let's start with resetting the board. We'll just make a bunch of empty space. Let's call it the board. And we'll take player input. Player 1 marker. And player 2 marker. And this is actually will be, let's say by default, the game will be running. Player 2 marker and equal to. So we will take player's input. And then we'll define another variable called turn. By using the choose first that we have defined earlier. And then by taking that input, we'll print something like turn plus go first, just to let them know which player is going first. And then play game, just to make sure they're ready to play. To input. And then inside we'll start an conditional. And if they answer yes, then the game will be on. If their input, that is the first character of their input, is equal to Y, then the game will be on. Else the game on will be false, that is game will not be on. And let's say by default the game is on. So we will write the first block of code for the player one's turn. Let's say player one. First, we will display the board. The board. The representation that we have made earlier. I will start by displaying that. And then we have to decide on the position. Which will come from the player's choice, and we'll call the board again. And then we have to place the marker. For the marker, we have to give 3 arguments. One will be the board. That is the representation, the player one's marker. And the position, at which position they want to put the marker. And then we have to check against the winning condition whether they have won or not. For the win check, we have to give 2 arguments. One will be the board, and another will be the marker. And inside the condition, we have to display the board. And then if they have won, then we have to print congrats, you won. Excuse me. And then the game will no longer be on if someone has already won. Game 1 will be false, or else and we have otherwise the board could be full. Full board check will check against the current representation of the board and then display the board. The board. And if no one has won, then definitely it's a draw. Game drawn. We'll give just a message, and then we'll break out of the loop. Or the turn will no longer be for player 1 and will go to player 2. Player 2. So we have written the code block for the turn for the first player, and it is actually inside a while loop. And we have to repeat this coding again for the second turn, that is for the player 2's turn. And we have to write okay. If the turn equal to, let's say, we are playing for player 1, Then I have to put all this block. Then I'm just indenting all these things right. All right, so the whole code block is for the player 1. Just to make sure we understand this portion. And we have to repeat this again for player 2. We have checked whether this whether we're under in player 1's turn, and we have checked the winning conditions and the drawing conditions. We have to do the same thing under the players under the second player's turn. Else just to make sure, player 2, this is player 2's turn, and we do the same thing again. Is the same thing, just with the second player's conditions. We place the second player's marker and we check against that player 2's marker, and if he or she has won, we print that message, and otherwise the game is a draw, and we break out of the loop, or else we turn to player 1 again. And let's say we have finished all of these, then we will, let's say, if no one wants to play again, if not replay, then we'll break out the loop. This is actually will be intended with the while loop outside, this while loop, while the game is on. So let's see if turn is equal to. Just to make sure we have combined everything correctly, we have printed the greetings, and while the game is by default playing, we have taken the markers, and we have decided who will go first, and then if they want to play the game is on, and if the turn is for player 1, we check against the game winning or game drawing conditions, or else we do the same for player 2. And if they do not play, they do not want to play again, we just break out of the loop. And so when we start the game, it's printing the greeting, and it's asking player 1, do you want to be X or O? Let's say I want to be X. So ready to play, yes or no? Let's say yes. So it's asking me to choose the position. Let's start with the middle 5. Choose your next position. I'm trying 1. Next, it's asking me for a position again. Let's say 3, just to finish the game quickly. Then it's asking me again, it's 2. And if I want to win, then I have to put 7. Then it has shown that player 2 has won, and it is saying, do we want to play again? Enter yes or no. Let's say no. So that's how we have actually combined all the small steps that we have written earlier to run this game, and we have combined in this step everything together to run this game. So if you have followed through this far, congratulations, you have made your first project in Python. I'll see you in the next project.